Everybody, welcome back to the Miniac live stream tonight. We're going live, and I apologize if there was an issue with time. I did say 6 p.m. Central, but I imagine that given some of you were on the East Coast, you might have thought I meant 6 p.m. Eastern time. Unfortunately, that was a problem on my part. So, Rocco, if you're still watching, I hope you're still here. Car Creations, I hope you're still here. Maria, I hope you're still here as well. But anyway, welcome back. Tonight, we are discussing... If you haven't already read the articles from BMWBlog and Motoringfile, you might have seen pictures talking about as they're calling it, an electric GP, or as Motoringfile is calling it, the GPE. Now, based on what they're saying is they're seeing a car rolling around, dressed up like a GP car, and does not have a grill, has the closed-off grill like the electric Mini, and it has no tailpipes and so on and so forth. Yellow brakes, this and that. They're thinking that it's a high-performance variant of the electric Mini that will be called the GPE, or just an electric GP car. Now, as cool as that may be, it could be a number of things. That could be an actual GP car that's going to be electric, or, and here's a theory I have, it could also be, there's several theories actually I got. One theory is that it's a test mule for another car because Mini has a habit of using recycling old test cars, demo cars, test mules. They have a habit of recycling them to be used for other vehicles. So if you haven't already known, if you didn't see pictures of this way back when they were developing the Mini Countryman, the R60 Countryman, they were testing the all-4 system in an R56 hardtop. So everyone was thinking that the R56 was going to get all-wheel drive. Well, it was running around with all-wheel drive running gear as part of this test car, and then they made the Countryman. If you ever seen some of the test mules for the F60 Countryman, it was disguised as an R60 Countryman with very large fender flares. Now, funny thing I found out recently is that the F56 generation Mini was supposed to actually be developed, or was tested out and developed to have an all-wheel drive system. They ended up deciding for, I think, cost reasons to not do an all-wheel drive system, so the car was never developed. I got that information from a friend of mine who is one of the hosts of White Roof Radio. So, we are looking at this vehicle. What do we think it is? Could it be an electric Mini? Or an electric GP? Or is it something else? Now, it's not out of the realm of possibility to see that Mini is creating an electric JCW, because they have said in the past that in some point in the future they want to spin off the JCW John Cooper Works as an independent brand, or possibly as a high-performance electric vehicle, as Mini wants to eventually make the entire Mini brand electric. Now, what they're going to do, though, is even with the electric, they're going to still have vehicles that are internal combustion engine, or as we've been calling them lately, ICE. Now, they're designing the 4th gen Mini to be an electric car first, with internal combustion and hybrid powertrains after. Whereas the current Mini Cooper SE that we have was a internal combustion engine first, and then was adapted to be an electric car. So if they design it first as an electric car, they can create the range they need, and then create an internal combustion engine version that will utilize that space, that the batteries wouldn't be there anymore. So they can use the car better. They can better utilize the design of the vehicle. So, anywho, before I get into more information, I want to answer some questions here. Rocco said, I think that's just a test mule for another car, not for a GP. Fiat did the same thing. They used old 500Es to test new Fiats. Funny thing you should mention that. Car companies have a tendency to use other vehicles as test mules. When Mercedes was developing the SLS, the Gullwing car, they were running around powertrains and chassis underneath the bodies of Vipers, which was kind of interesting. And the only reason you could tell something was off was it was a Dodge Viper body with a very, very long hood on the front. And something didn't seem right about it. Turned out they were testing a new car. Now, Porsche did the very same thing. They had a really tricked-out looking sedan rolling around that was the test mule for the Porsche Panamera, and it looked like a completely beefed-up BMW M5. It really looked like an M5, but it was actually the Porsche Panamera being tested out, and they were running around that way. BMW would be the kind of company that would not want to just toss away cars they have used in the past for test vehicles and for production and pre-production vehicles when they could reutilize them. Now, if you've ever watched one of my videos in the past where I showed you all what they did with the Mini Cooper or with the Mini E's, the 2009 Mini E's when they returned them to the manufacturer, a lot of them were crushed. Some of them went to museums, and some of them had a little bit more interesting stuff done with them. One in particular was given the full JCW appearance package, wheel, suspension, body, and they took it out to the Nürburgring as an electric race car, and they went out and tested it. So this could also be an electric race car that we're seeing that they're going to develop as well. They've taken their Cooper SE, because if you look at the car carefully in some of the pictures from Motoringfile, you'll see it doesn't have the GP headlights. It has the Cooper SE headlights, or Cooper S headlights, I should say. But they could be testing an electric race car, which would be interesting. But anywho, the other thing, I'll get to you in a minute on the oil change, Rocco, since we're talking about the other stuff. But here's my biggest theory on this car that we're seeing rolling around. And this is where I think that it might actually be correct, knowing how Mini does things. 2024 is when we're supposed to see the 4th generation Mini. Mini has talked about things they're going to be changing. They're going to be adjusting the wheel track slightly. They're going to increase the wheel weight or wheelbase slightly. They're going to shorten the body a little bit. They're going to change. They're actually supposed to change the angle of the A-pillars so that they line up a little bit better, give it more of a snubbed nose, more of the bulldog stance that we all know and love from the previous 2 generations and even the classics. What I think we're seeing here, this is probably based on some other pictures I looked at, that it looked like the wheel track was off just slightly in the car, and I've looked at that and I'm like, that doesn't make any sense that the wheels seemed a little bit, in one picture I saw, the wheels either seemed a little bit too far forward, maybe a half inch or so, or the rear wheels looked like they were pushed forward a little bit in their wheel openings. Now, Mini has done this before when they adjusted suspension geometry. If you ever owned an R53, the 2006s had something to do with longer trailing arms on the rear suspension. So their rear suspension was actually pulled back slightly, about half an inch or so. So the wheelbase on an R56 or a R53 2006 model year was actually slightly longer than the other previous model years for the R53. So anyway, I think what we're seeing here is possibly not an electric GP. I think what we're seeing here is a test mule. And it's a heavily disguised test mule. They are basically intentionally throwing you off by making it look like an electric Mini, making it look like a GP, and even the sketches they were showing. Now, the sketches that Mini says that Motoringfile says were leaked, if you look at them carefully, they kind of look like an F56. They kind of don't look like an F56. So that's kind of where I'm thinking that we're looking at the beginning developments of the G56 platform, for lack of a better term, until we know for sure what they're going to call it. So, anywho, I think that's what's going to happen. I think this is probably a test mule. I could be wrong. I was wrong about the all-wheel drive thing on the GP, although I did find out later they had the ability to do it. They just chose not to. But anyway, getting to Rocco's question, how's my car performing with the new oil? It is working, since we're switching off from electric now to gasoline. It's working fantastic. The car's acceleration seems better. Its responsive throttle response seems a little bit better. I don't know what it is. I don't know if it was the oil or the ceramic additive to the engine oil. Something made the car feel different in how it drives, and I really, really like it. I haven't used the fuel injector cleaner yet, and I'm going to do that with my next fill up. But I've been told good things about that, and I'm looking forward to giving that a try. So it could be a 6 Series electric test mule. That's kind of cool. Or G Series. Yeah, Car Creations, yes, it could be a G Series test mule. I'm thinking it could be a G Series test mule, which would be kind of cool, since they did say they weren't going to be changing. They were going to be shortening the body length, but they weren't going to be changing the wheelbase. They were actually going to make the wheelbase a little longer. So they aren't changing that. So the car's shape is not going to shrink by much. It is going to shrink back to R56 proportions in terms of length and width. Not necessarily width, in terms of length. But they're going to keep the same interior volume that we have on the F cars, which are actually a little bit more roomy, a little bit more comfortable. So we're going to see some changes, but we're going to also see returning to some styling that we like, basically. It's going to be an interesting new car. And with the new advances in pedestrian crash test, safety standards, collision materials, stuff like that, it's going to be it's going to allow for smaller exterior body panels, basically. So we don't have that longer nose on the Mini that some of you have noticed. Anywho, Rocco said, do Minis use OW40? Actually, the F cars use OW20. The R56, R53s, I believe, use 5W30, and I think sometimes 5W40, but I could be wrong on that. But I believe it's 5W30 for the R53, R56, and it's OW20 for the F56 because of the BMW engines. Rocco, I wonder if they would use new engines or not in the new G56 and keep the manual transmission. I don't know if the manual transmission will be sticking around in the JCW. I know it's going to still stick around in the Cooper and Cooper S as far as I know with the hardtops. The engines, I would imagine that if we don't see them reuse the B46, B48 engines, we may end up seeing a trio of higher horsepower 3-cylinder turbos, which Ford has done this over in Europe. Their Fiesta has a lot of 3-cylinder turbo engines, which are fantastic little engines, and we know we can get significant horsepower out of a 3-cylinder turbocharged motor. The BMW i8 is a good example of that, and I've seen people be able to get 189 horsepower out of a 3-cylinder turbo without much effort, and 300 horsepower out of a 3-cylinder turbo with a few expensive modifications, but it can be done. So it wouldn't be out of the realm possibility to see them switch over to a 3-cylinder motors for those cars. It will be an electric motor. Well, we'll see a Cooper S, John Cooper Works kind of thing, but we're going to also see a full electric motor with probably an increased range, and we're going to see a hybrid powertrain. Now, the hybrid powertrain, I've been told, is coming next year for the facelift or for the second LCI for the F56. So we're going to see a hybrid powertrain, which I've been told will probably have, based on what I've been reading, around 224 horsepower, which means we're going to see an increase in horsepower on the JCWs and probably the Coopers as well. And I've been hearing rumors that the horsepower increase for the regular JCW lineup hardtop convertible will probably go into 265 from 228. Now, that also potentially means that the manual transmission may be done away with for the JCWs entirely. I don't know if that's true or not yet. I'm hoping that's not the case. And I agree with you. Ellie, there. Yeah, I don't want to see them lose the manuals on the JCWs. That would just be a disaster. That being said, the 8-speed ZF automatic transmissions that are in the John Cooper Works Countryman and Clubman are actually pretty decent, but still, there's no real substitute for a manual transmission, if you can agree with that. Rocco says, or a 2-cylinder because CO2 emissions are becoming a little more important. A 2-cylinder would be interesting, but I don't think with the size of this vehicle, a 2-cylinder will work unless it's going to be for the Chinese market version that they're going to be building in China. Now, China is building, BMW is building a plant in China to produce electric Minis for the Chinese market. Everyone was freaking out thinking those cars were going to be sent to the U.S. Not that necessarily Chinese products are a bad thing. If any of you have driven a Buick Envision, it's made in China. So not all Chinese products are bad. But that being said, I know how you all feel. There also is rumors that there's going to be a Mini built in the United States in the next 5 years. And that vehicle supposedly will be based off of the next BMW iX3 full electric. It'll be a full electric crossover utility vehicle Mini called the Traveler. And supposedly it's going to be the first crossover SUV from Mini to have 3 rows of seats. So if you have a big family, you want to still have the looks of a Mini, there you go. And you got the increased electric range potentially. So that car potentially will be built in the U.S. and I'm guessing it'll probably be at the Spartanburg plant along with the rest of the BMW X SUV lineup. But lots of things coming down the pike, lots of changes in the future, lots of new stuff. There's going to be some minor tweaks here and there of some cars you're going to see coming up in the next couple of months as they trickle into the U.S., into the dealerships before the official launch of the 2022 model year, which will be sometime in March. So you're going to see changes to the cars, little tweaks here and there, new wheels, new colors. They're getting ready to gear up for some new roof colors. So we might see a melting silver potentially on the hardtops, which would be kind of cool. But you never know what will happen. So it'll be pretty cool stuff. Now, if you excuse me a second, someone's wanting to get my attention on my phone. And we all know who that is, my mom. Anyway, go back to Ellie here. Hello from Australia. Hey Ellie, welcome to the channel. And says R53 SGP1 only choice for me. I would love, honestly, to drive an R53 GP. I've never driven one. I think it's a really cool little car. I would love to get my hands on one. I'm going to have to save up some money to buy one. Or if anyone's out there nearby within the Kansas City area, near the Kansas City area, and wants to come here for a weekend and let me drive their car for a video, I'm all for it. That'd be fantastic. I don't think I'd be able to convince a used car dealership if they had one to let me drive it for a video. So, anywho, Rocco, everyone said that a four-door Mini would be a bad idea. Plot twist, it turns out that those same people needed more space, so they bought a Countryman. Yep. That is the plot twist. But honestly, the four-door Mini was created because people complained about the club door on the R55. So what they do? Well, they gave you 4 full doors and a hatch because everyone complained about the barn doors. You can't please everybody. Mini can't please everybody, and they try. They do try, but I think what they really should do is focus on what they think is cool, and we just all have to go along with it. That's the reason the R53 existed. They did what they thought was cool and created the R53, and we all went out and bought them and loved them. And I think the same thing happened with the R50 with the second generation Minis. They had some crazy models out there at that time, and we went out and bought those. The F cars have been kind of hit and miss. The thing about the F cars is they're incredibly reliable, ridiculously reliable. So there's nothing terrible about the F cars, aside from some people don't really care for the looks. But I think the reliability standpoint, they're fantastic. So Rocco says, I remember seeing a Paceman truck rendering. Yeah, that was one where they cut the roof off, kind of made a mini pup-esque kind of vehicle. I don't know if they ever actually put that. They never put it into production, obviously. The closest thing you can get to a mini pickup truck these days if you buy a recycled or if you buy a retired Red Bull car. And Ellie's not interested in anything after 2006. Okay. I won't fault you for that. So there's plenty of good stuff before 2006. I think all the minis are great, even the classics. So, but anything, it really depends. There's certain specs I like. If I'm going to get a 2003 R56 or R53, for example, a 2006 R53, it has to have the xenon headlights. It has to have manual transmission, and it has to have a limited slip differential, and there's very few of those out there. So I'm not going to be buying one anytime soon unless I can find one with those 3 specs, and it has to have all 3 of those things. Car creations, I would get a mini truck, Rocco, or a minivan. Please don't. No, we don't want to give them any ideas with the minivan. So car creations, I wonder if the new G series will bring to life that Roadster concept. I don't know if the Roadster is ever going to come along. What they actually said is Mini owns the rights to Triumph. So there's actually talks at some point possibly about bringing back the Triumph brand, and the Roadster would have been the concept car for that. Now, I had some video footage of the Roadster, or of that Superleggera concept that I was going to show you all, but when I tried to put a video together with it, it was the most boring footage imaginable. They weren't driving it fast. They were driving it slowly down a country path in the middle of some place in England. And I was like, that's the most dull piece of video. It's a Roadster, it's a sports car, and they're not driving it fast enough. So I didn't share it with you all. Mark White, still do. Seeing more and more Gen 2s for sale and less Gen 1s. Yep. The other thing about Mark White, the other thing about the Gen 1s is that a lot of them probably, the reason why you're not seeing a lot of them for sale is I've seen a lot end up in the junkyard after a while because they just get beaten to pieces. LE Basic, Mark Gen 1 or Gen 1 will be the one that ends up being a collectible first mini in the millennium. I agree with you. I do actually think the 2002 to 2006, or in the case of the European market, 2001 to 2005, R53s will probably be collector's cars at some point, depending on spec. Now, a completely tricked out one that someone's modified the hell out of, and I'm going to get demonetized now for saying that, but monetize the heck out of, you're going to see you're going to probably see the value of that one go down. But if it's been treated perfectly, taken care of, restored, stuff like that, you're going to probably see those go up in value. And yeah, Rocco, yeah, the Superleggera looked great, but watching the video of it, it drove incredibly slow. It was just a very slow looking car. So, and Ellie, no, you didn't get me in trouble. It just happened. So if I get demonetized for that one slip, there's not a huge deal. But I don't think it's gonna happen. I didn't say anything worse than that, so I think we're fine. But I'm not too worried about it. But anywho, if you have all checked out those articles from Motoringfile and from BMWBlog, it's pretty interesting stuff to read. It's kind of cool looking at the pictures, and it's kind of fun just to kind of sit there and kind of wonder what might happen what's going to happen with this. What changes are they going to do? What stuff is going to be changed? All this other stuff. Is this car going to go into production? Has it been greenlit? This is all information we don't know for sure. Now, the funny thing was, if this were all factual stuff, I would probably have gotten a message right now from one of the brand specialists from Mini USA, because when I posted a picture of the leaked 2022 facelift, I got a message on Instagram from a brand specialist from Mini USA asking me where I got the picture. And so that was my clue. If I got that message, that was my clue that this was exactly what the car is going to look like, and we weren't supposed to see it yet. So it happens. But the fact that we're saying stuff about this electric GP and Mini is rather silent about it indicates to me that it might not actually be an electric GP. It might just be a test mule that they're running around in and having fun with. So we'll wait to see what exactly happens. Car Creations, there may be an electric G Series GP in a few years then. Yes, we probably will see the 4th generation GP will probably be an electric, or at the very least a hybrid. I don't know if they'll do an internal combustion engine for the next GP, but it's possible. You never know. And Rocco says that custom 1499 that you drove the other day sounded great. It sounded great. It looks great. It's currently sitting in the showroom right now, and if I had the money to buy it, I probably would. But I'm a broke YouTuber. YouTubers do not make nearly as much money as people think we do. And maybe next year, who knows? Maybe things will change next year. I'd love to get a GP, oddly, but the only thing I don't like about the GP, aside from the manual transmission, or aside from the lack of manual transmission, it doesn't have driving modes. So I would have to put in Pro Exhaust, which is already on the one in the showroom at the dealership, and I'd have to probably get a decatted downpipe to get enough noise out of that thing, because it doesn't have enough. But that's a personal preference. The 1499 GT needs a decatted downpipe as well, and a giant turbo on it. Get about 300 horsepower out of that car, then I don't care if it has driving modes or not. Anyway, good stuff. Slick Rick Johnson, that's a new name. If Mini had like Volvo or Mazda vehicle assist, I'll get the 2021 Clubman S Mini all-4. It sucks because I want my girl to drive something different, but again, the safety, it has the basics, but meh. What is Mazda's vehicle assist, if you don't mind me asking? Because Mini does have collision avoidance, they do have pedestrian avoidance, and they do have, on some models, the Clubman and Countryman specifically, they do have the ability to slow the car down when they have the adaptive cruise control on, and I think in some instances stop the car. But I don't know anything else. If you're talking about blind spot alert, here's the thing about blind spot alert: you don't need it. If you adjust the mirrors away from the side of your car, because we don't need to necessarily see the side of our vehicle anymore, adjust it away so that you can see if your car's sitting in the center of a lane. Adjust it away so that you can see in the corners of the mirrors closest to the car, you can see the lines of the lane you're traveling in. That's all you need, because that fills in your blind spots. You can now see the car over here, the car over here, the car behind you. If you can't see the car behind you in your rearview mirror, you'll be able to see them in the side view mirrors. And that's the way the proper mirror adjustment works, is that if you adjust them properly, you shouldn't have to worry about blind spots. Everyone talks about blind spots, but honestly, there is no blind spots if you know how to adjust your mirrors correctly. And of course, be one of those people who actually looks before they change lanes, and I've seen people who don't do that. I'm not one of those people, but it's really annoying when you're trying to drive and you're watching someone and they're coming up behind, you're coming past them, and you're like, okay, they're getting ready to move, they're not signaling, and they're starting to merge over. They don't even look to see if you're in their lane or if you're in the lane they're coming into or not. And it doesn't matter what they do, they don't pay attention. The good news is you're in one of the safest cars on the road if you're driving a Mini, so if they hit you, you're fine. You're fine. I wouldn't worry about it. It just means that they didn't pay attention, so now they get to pay to fix your car. Or replace your car, depending on how bad it can be. And I've been in a car accident in a Mini Cooper. I walked away, so I know exactly how safe these cars are. Okay, Slick Rick Johnson, like the speed, it only can stop in city speeds, but not like highways. Yeah, it can't stop in highways, but honestly, Rick, I'm gonna go by Rick because I don't know what your full name is. Honestly, no car with this that does the automatic stopping and braking thing. I don't think they can do. I don't think any car can do that at highway speed significantly enough because it needs the computer needs enough time to basically gauge distance to figure out if it can even stop in time without hitting the vehicle in front of you. If it can determine that it can stop in time without hitting the vehicle in front of you, then it might do so. In most cases, it realizes that you're traveling way too close to that car in front of you, so it primes the brakes and prepares for the possibility you're going to hit that car because you're too close to it. Most people like us, when we're driving on the highway, we don't necessarily follow the correct distance, the traveling distance between cars. If we followed that correctly, we would never hit another car. It would be impossible. But people like get stacked up right up next to each other, tailgating, all that stuff. It's a complete mess, really. Ellie, basic, yeah, they turn on the indicator, not looking, thinking I've indicated I'm going. Yeah, that's the funny thing. I see no I see cars turning in the turn lane. I see no indicator, and I'm like, I got people honking at me behind me, and I'm like, well, I'm waiting for the car in front of me to decide if they're going straight or if they're turning. And they get to the intersection, and then they put their signal on as they're turning. We don't have ESP. We can't predict what you're going to do. Put your signal on, indicate to us you're going to get into that lane or you're going to turn that corner, and then we know to not get in your way. Otherwise, your signal at the last minute, we're still going forward, we're going to hit you. And I've seen it happen. I've seen people get into those situations. I've watched one of those situations happen once where a car just turned right in front of another car. No signal, nothing. And then they say, well, I signaled later. I'm like, well, you should have signaled about 200 feet before you turned. Then we knew where you're going. Anyway, I've rambled enough on that. Sonic Liberation, have you driven an F-56 with variable dampening control? The dynamic damper control, yes. And in fact, all Mini Countrymen currently have dynamic damper control. So the ride is incredibly comfortable. And if an F-56 has dynamic damper control, it's been very comfortable. I've driven so many with the dynamic damper control. I went over a speed bump in one of them, and I'm like, it does not feel like a Mini going over a speed bump because you go over a speed bump in an R56, you're hitting your head on the ceiling. You go over a speed bump in an R53, you've mushroomed the strut tower while knocking yourself unconscious on the window. So it happens. But the dynamic damper control definitely is fantastic if you can get it in the cars. The only catch is if you want to lower your suspension, you have to get lowered suspension specifically designed for dynamic damper control vehicles, or you have to disable the dynamic damper control because it doesn't work with lowered cars, apparently. So Car Creations, my JCW has it, makes a huge difference on bumpy roads, yep, and cornering. I wish I would have opted for it on my 2020 F56S, but the dealership had none in stock. Yeah, you could have ordered your car maybe. But yeah, more often than not, they don't usually get that option. They don't usually order it because it's a bit of an expensive option to add to the vehicle, and they don't get much call for it on their dealership lots. Go to California in the rain, it happens all the time. Yeah. You're talking about people not paying attention while driving, yeah. Dash cam rules. Yep, I had a friend who she has a brand new Mini John Coupe Works Countryman. She had a Mini accessory dash cam installed on her Countryman. So she has a front and rear dash cam now, so she knows. So the car records exactly what's going on in the event of a crash. If you've just joined the party, Christian, there's always been an electric Mini on the way. There's been electric Minis out now for several months. If you're talking about the Cooper SE, in fact, there is a chili red, white roof Cooper SE with with lounge leather interior coming to my dealership within the next couple of months, I think, give or take. And it's a pretty nice one. I'll be able to do a video of that one when it arrives, hopefully. But yeah, they've been able to get electric Minis for a while, and I've heard rumors that they may actually have enough production ramping up between now and next year that they will actually be able to get the electric Mini onto the lot as an inventory vehicle. And the sales manager at the Mini dealership I go to has said that if they made it a inventory vehicle, he'd order like 7. So he'd have like 7 or 8 on the lot right now because they would sell like that. But the thing is, Mini knows they'll sell crazy. The problem is they need people to act. The problem is dealerships need to actually have the inventory on the lot. You can't just tell them, oh, this is a great car. This is what it looks like. It kind of looks like this, kind of has these options. No, they actually want to see the vehicle. They actually want to sit in the vehicle. They actually want to drive the vehicle. And they can't do that if the dealerships don't have one as a piece of inventory. So a lot of times customers back out of those cars after they arrive. So that's why some of these dealerships you're looking around have electric Minis. Or in some cases, they have 2 or 3 GP cars. I know of one dealership that has 3 GP cars. I think it's Champ Mini in Highlands Ranch, Colorado. And Barron Mini in Merriam, Kansas had 2 for a period of time. They recently sold one. It's off to Georgia. It was shipped to Georgia. And the other one with the red roof upgrade they did and the exhaust upgrade and everything has a pending sale already. So that one is getting ready to be heading out as well. And let's see here. Welcome to Minifam. Before I get to you, Chris and Christian, I'm gonna go down here and thank Slick Rick Johnson for the $5 donation there. What was the speed the other vehicle was going, and what car or truck hit you? How it hit you? I was coming off of an off ramp, going to a car show, and I didn't stop long enough at a stop sign. I was driving an R56, 2013 R56 Mini Cooper S. I was turning to go to basically pull out. I saw the truck coming and I had enough time to stop. And I'm thinking, okay, he's obviously looking at me. He's not going to hit me. And he said later in the accident report that he was not looking at the road. He was watching the cars drive by. And I'm thinking if he had actually looked, he probably wouldn't have hit me. He wasn't paying attention straight ahead. So what ended up happening is, I was blamed for the accident, obviously, but he was going probably about 55. It was a 45 mile per hour speed zone, and caught me right in front of the front wheel of the car, enough that it took the whole frame at the front, pushed it, and spun me completely around, like literally completely around. I did a full 360 completely around. One of my headlights ended up in a field about 40 feet away. The other headlight was demolished. The engine was demolished. The front end it was a mess. It was a complete mess. Walked away without a scratch. I lost a fantastic car that I only had for 8 months, but I walked away unscathed, basically. But that pretty much solidified my realization that the Mini is probably one of the safest cars you could possibly own. So that's why I own one, and I'll continue to own them. So anyway, going back up here through the list. Christian, wait, what? So is this legit? Okay, sorry. Sonic Liberation, there is already an electric F56 called the SE. Christian Word, oh wow, I gotta look into that. Just joined the Mini community as of January 2020. Well, welcome to the club. Picked an interesting time to join the Mini community, January 2020. That's not a bad time. This has just been the weirdest year for me and probably for everyone out there. Chris Belgrade, I missed what she said about your oil change. How is that working out? Oil change is working out great. Car's running fantastic, and I will eventually be doing a progress report video on that. I haven't tried out the fuel injector cleaner yet, but I'm going to be doing that at some point. I unfortunately can't record that because the camera at a gas station kind of just doesn't look safe. Anywho. Where are we looking at here? Sonic Liberation, do you think Mini will ever lease the SE? The battery tech is changing too fast for me to think about buying. I don't know. If they were leasing the SE, I imagine there would be tons leaving the dealership right now. But Mini even discontinued the leasing option for the Countryman, or the Countryman SE hybrid. So They don't even have that as a leasing option anymore. I think it's just because of, I don't know if it's a supply thing or I don't know exactly why. I just know they're not leasing those cars right now, and it'd be great if they did lease them. I think a lot of people would probably go for that option, which would eventually mean in 3 years' time you'd have a lot of used electric minis sitting on lots or coming to the dealer lots. Rocco wants to know what got me into driving minis in the first place. Well, it was 2011. I was looking for a I was given money by my late grandmother to buy a new car for my graduation from college. And it was all sorts of cars I was looking at. I was looking at BMWs, I was looking at Audis, I was thinking something simple or something sensible, and was even considering Fords, Mazdas, all sorts of stuff. And I thought I want to have something fun. So a friend of mine named Tommy said, you need to look at Mini, and if you're going to get a Mini, you have to get one with a manual. So I looked at Minis, found one I liked. I kept looking at ones with automatics, and he's like, no, you need to buy one with a manual. So he took me out and taught me how to drive his manual transmission British Racing Green R53, and I was hooked ever since. Found about a couple of weeks later, I found a Pepper White Cooper S, and I bought that car, and I've been hooked on Minis ever since. So it's kind of just gone through, it became kind of an obsession in a way. I learned everything I could about the vehicles, learned about the history of the vehicles, and it just kept going on, and that's the car I have hooked onto, and that's the car I'm going to keep owning. I just think it's great. So, Rocco also watched your why you should buy a Mini video, and you brought up that the safety standards were rewritten. When did that take place? I can't find anything about it. Crash test safety standards, it was kind of a tongue-in-cheek kind of thing with the rewritten thing. They said that the safety standards for the Mini were so good because it's such a small car that U.S. crash test safety standards were, if you look at the comparison, the Mini, the R53 Mini's crash test safety standards at the time in 2002 were higher than the normal 5-star rating that you would get for a car in the United States in 2006, or I mean in 2002. So what Mini ended up doing is they rewrote crash test safety standards because the car was that well put together and that solid and that safe. The head curtain airbags, side impact airbags, frontal airbags, had anti-lock brakes, it had all the safety features, safety cage, because it's such a small car, it needed a safety cage basically to protect the occupants of the vehicle. So it had all that stuff built into it to make it a safe car. And it continues to this day to be built like that, built to be a very safe vehicle. So because of that, that is why they rewrote safety standards. So basically all the other car brands had to go back and redo their structural safety designs because Mini had a car that was more safe than their cars were. So now today, a lot of the cars are all pretty much equally safe, but that was just kind of a thing back then, that it was kind of rewrote the safety standards when it came to crash tests. And Chris retracted a message. Slick Rick Johnson, oh, I wish Mini Nav had Android Auto. Yeah, I think they're working on an upgrade for Android Auto, but it's just not here yet. I think they're going to add it at some point. What I did find out as far as navigation is concerned is if you've watched the video on the 1499 GT, that has a 6.5-inch navigation screen, which is new for 2021. It also has it also has Apple CarPlay. And one of the things I found out now is coming up toward the end of this year and into early next year, if you get the full screen full screen navigation systems, the 8.8-inch, it'll now have full screen Apple CarPlay. So you're not going to have this half screen anymore. It'll be the full screen for Apple CarPlay, which pretty cool thing. Now, as far as Android goes, you're out of luck at the moment. Now, the thing is, I've never used Apple CarPlay in my car. I don't have Apple CarPlay. I've never used navigation. I've always been happy with just plugging my iPhone into the Bluetooth connections in the car or plug it into the USB and just using it that way and having the navigation on my phone. I've never felt a need to actually have navigation in the car, Apple CarPlay in the car, Android Auto, all those extra things. I just think it was extra stuff I didn't need. Now, I know not everyone is like that, and people really want to have some of those features in the cars. Navigation being one of those features that actually makes the car kind of interesting when it comes to planning your trips, especially the electric Mini, because if you use the navigation for every single one of your trips with the electric, it'll optimize your trips to give you the most efficient route possible, so you'll use the least amount of energy. And that's a pretty cool thing. I think it even does it in the hybrid. I don't know if it does it for every single Mini, but I've heard stories that it even does something with satellites so that it optimizes your shifting. It knows when to downshift and upshift based on the topography of where you're driving. Kind of a cool thing. It only works with the automatics, obviously, but it's kind of cool. Chris said, hold on. I've heard a lot of people say my car is safe because it has 10 airbags. There's more to it than that. 10 airbags are one thing. Safety cage is another. The more sturdy, the more rigid the vehicle is, sturdy, and the more the way it's designed to absorb impact, the safer it's going to be. My car, in instance, the one I wrecked, it absorbed the entire front of the car, basically absorbed the impact. I didn't notice any failing of the body of the vehicle until I got out of the car, and after looking at it before it was getting towed away, I shut the door, and I noticed that the window glass was overlapping slightly the rear window by maybe 1/8 of an inch. So it took the full impact on the front, but had also warped the body slightly. So the car did suffer structural impact, structural damage that was enough to total the vehicle. It was more than just that, but it withstood enough of the impact to keep me safe, and anyone else who would have been with me would have been safe as well. So where are we? All right, next one. Chris Belgrade, I've heard there has been talk about discontinuing the Clubman. Do you know if that's true? I've heard talks of discontinuing it, and I've also heard talks that they're going to take the Clubman and they're going to make it a small crossover utility vehicle that would make it possibly more sellable. Honestly, if they just did the Scrambler concept that I saw where it had the lifted suspension and the big wheels, it would kind of look like an Outback, but they're not going to do that. I don't know if they're going to discontinue it. I don't know if they're going to keep going. We know the convertible is going to be discontinued at some point, but I don't know about the Clubman at this point. And if I find information on the Clubman that's going to be discontinued, if I know anything, I'll let you know. At the moment, I do not have that information. Rocco, Android Auto is an app on Android, by the way, and it works pretty well if your car doesn't have it. There you go. You can always use the Android Auto app for your phone. And also if you have the click and drive system in your car where it's mounted up over the tack, swing that little arm up, put your phone right there, you can actually use that as well, and it works incredibly well. Sorry, I know this is way out of topic. Just wanted you to know you just got a new sub. Well, I appreciate it. Welcome. If you haven't already checked, the channel's over 8,700 now. Is it 8,700? Yeah, 8,700. I haven't gotten to 9,000. No, wait a minute. I forgot how big my channel is. Yeah, 8,700. We're gonna hit 9,000 probably by the end of the year. I'm hoping. Maybe 10,000. Think we can get to 10,000? We'll see. We'll get there at some point. And Ellie says, yes, I'm obsessed. Agree. Airbags in the seats, yes. Side impact airbags in the seats. That's one thing that's great about the cars. Des Miller, if you use CarPlay, it will connect to your phone via Bluetooth automatically. Yep. I also have in my car, because sometimes it's a pain in the butt to I plug my car into the USB when I charge it, or when I charge it when I'm listening to things on my car. I don't always use the Bluetooth because it sometimes drains my battery, my phone battery. That is what I actually have done is the 6-button preset things at the bottom. I actually have one of those buttons preset so that when I get in my car, plug my phone into my cable, I immediately push that button and it links my phone to my car, so I can have my phone immediately rather than waiting for the car to decide when it wants to connect to my phone, because sometimes it doesn't. Just one of those little flukes. Sonic Liberation 71. Yep, 8710. Yep, we're 80. Yep, close to 8710. Car Creations, you will get to 10,000. Oh, I know I'll get to 10,000. Just wish it would be sooner than 2021, but we'll see what happens. Rocco, my mom's Fiat has airbags in the seats. Even cheaper cars have them. I haven't found them in minis yet. Airbags in the seats? Of course they have airbags in the seats in the minis. Rocco, what country are you in? I think I remember you telling me what country you're in, but I'm not sure. U.S. market, all Minis have side impact airbags in their seats. Yeah. Okay. So yeah, all Minis in the U.S. market have side impact airbags in the seats, built into the seats. There's actually a little tag on the side of the seat. If you look at it, it says S. I think it says SRS or something. So for airbags, or it just says airbag. So they do have side impact airbags in the seats. Yes, Rocco, you can also set those presets to radio stations if you choose. The presets are kind of cool buttons. They're touch sensitive, so if you slide your fingers along without pressing them, you'll see them in the screen repeat, like they'll show you as you pass over the numbers. You can select whatever you want, radio station wise or menu wise, and you can push and hold the button, and it will save that preset. So basically, if you want to go to your sport display all the time for your driving mode, when you go into sport driving, you can preset that to whatever button you want in there and just push that button every time you're driving, and it'll go right to those gauges. If you want to go to your phone book, you can press one to do that. If you want to go to your navigation and even your maps, you can press one to do that. And if you want to go to your favorite radio station, you can set one to go to that as well. So you can do them any way you wish. I have one that goes right to my tire pressure settings because I've been concerned about the tire pressure in my car when it gets cold outside. But you can do all sorts of things with those buttons, different presets and things like that. You can even have one set up to go to your owner's manual, which is built into your car. This is for the cars that have actual screens, not the ones that have the screen that we referred to as the robot face, which was like this long red screen, and then everything was kind of buttons, basically. So, Sonic Liberation, the seats are great in the F56S. I agree. The seats in the F56s are fantastic. F cars have mini tags, seats. Yeah, BMW quality seats. Slick Rick Johnson, do you have photos of your car aftermath? I don't know if I do still. I think I do have photos somewhere, but I don't really pull those photos out anymore. There's actually, I even have, weird thing. I was trying to film a YouTube video that I never actually finished that day. Never got around to making it because of the accident, but I actually had a GoPro mounted on a antenna mount on my car at the time of the accident. It actually picked up the entire accident as it happened. And that video is actually somewhere in my list of videos, but I think I have it either set as unlisted or private because I had to have it there for insurance purposes for the insurance company. And even then, the problem was the camera was on linear and it should have been on wide angle. And if it were on wide angle, it probably would have captured more of what was going on. And as it is, it only captured the moment of impact. It didn't capture anything else. So unfortunately, yes, I do have pictures of the wreck, but it was just not stuff I want to keep. I try to keep around just because it was kind of sad. They did eventually find my grill badge that was on my car. It was an Apollo. I think I have pictures. The car's name was Apollo, so the grill badge was actually Apollo 13, which was kind of funny given the fact that it was a 2013 Mini Cooper. So it was the Apollo 13 patch on a grill badge. They found that grill badge laying in the gravel like a couple days later, like a week later or so, and the badge had been split into 3 pieces, basically. The impact was that bad. So, Sonic Liberation, is your insurance premium go sky high after the accident? My insurance premium didn't actually go up at all. I had accident forgiveness, as that was my first serious accident I've ever had. So I actually had accident forgiveness, so it never actually went up. The only reason my insurance is higher now is because of a newer vehicle, and I added rental car coverage because I wasn't going to take any chances anymore. Because it's nice to have rental car coverage if you get into an accident. And if you're wondering what this is, I can't get my mint tea anymore because of the pandemic going on. So this is cold brew, slightly sweet. And no, that's not a plug for Lipton here, since I'm not sponsored by Lipton. But it's good tea, so I just drink it anyway. But anyway, I'm right now sitting in my studio space. So if you haven't noticed all the crazy stuff, and if any of you recognize that, that's the Western Auto sign. So yes, I am in the Kansas City area. I took that picture with a telephoto lens, but Yes, so this is based out of Kansas City. It's probably the only mini channel based out of Kansas City that you're going to find, which is kind of a unique thing. I was actually told by someone that I was ranked in the top 10 mini or YouTube channels related to Mini Coopers in the world, and I guess that kind of makes the channel world famous. So who knows? So Rocco asked, what happened to the Beamer Code? The Beamer Code channel is still there. I haven't really done much video with it. I had a video planned for the BMW 1 Series at one point for my channel, for the Miniac channel, that I was going to post when I was getting ready to launch Beamer Code videos on the Miniac, and I decided not to air it, so I've never launched it. And I had another video that I'm actually going to have to retool the voiceover for, because I was going to air it on the Miniac, and it was for the BMW 8 Series. But unfortunately, that never came to pass, so I have that video, I just never launched it. So I'm going to possibly tweak the stuff on it so I can launch on the Beamer Code channel. Or if people actually want to see a BMW video on the Mini channel, I might go ahead and post it. But I try to avoid mixing my content if I can now, because it seems that BMW and Mini are it seems like Mini is kind of the big thing that makes this channel so great, is the fact that it's solely focused on the Mini brand, and mixing brands together just doesn't seem to work. So I'm kind of hesitant to do that yet, but we'll see what happens. Rocco, saw your X1 versus Countryman, and everything that you said is true. Everything I said is true. I appreciate that. Not everyone agrees with you on that. Not everyone agrees with me on that. But like I said, I've driven the X1, I've driven the X2, and I think they're terrible. I just think they are dull. I don't know. I don't understand it. BMW is known for the ultimate driving machine, and the X1 and X2 just seem ridiculous. On top of that, the X2 looks more like an experiment that BMW came up with of how many different places can you fit a BMW badge. Because if you've ever seen the car, it has one on the back, it has one on the front, and it has one on each side. So I think it's the only BMW that BMW has ever made where there are at least 4 badges on it. And I think the only other one I can think of that was even weirder than that came close to that, is I think the original BMW M1 had 3 badges on it. It had one on the front, I think it had 2 on the rear. But it's just it's interesting. It's an interesting thing. Rocco says, I've always found the exteriors to look nice, but the interiors to look very plasticky. Yeah, that's the thing. And I think that's because, here's the problem with some of the BMW vehicles. If you want to get into a little rant on BMWs, the problem with BMWs is that if you want to get the less expensive ones, they build them to a price point, which means they build them to a point where people who don't have the money to buy the more expensive ones can afford them. The result is, if any of you have ever driven a BMW 320i, is it's cheap. Feels cheap, drives cheap, looks cheap over time, and just doesn't. It's just not great. It's like a $34,000, $35,000, $36,000 car, and within 2 years, it's like $15,000, and it's kind of crazy to think about. But yeah, so BMW doesn't always make incredibly expensive cars. If you're going to buy a BMW, spend the money, get the more expensive ones. Otherwise, don't buy a BMW. There's other brands that you could buy that you can get all the bells and whistles and spend less if you're going to buy BMW. And I know a few. Sonic Liberation, what is happening to Mini sales figures worldwide? I read they were going to lay 400 workers off at the plant, then decided to hold off due to sales increases. Yeah, sales for Mini have actually gone up. And because of that, they canceled the layoff for the workers. They have actually ramped up production at the Oxford plant, even during the current shutdown. I think there's currently another lockdown in the UK, and none of the manufacturing plants are currently affected by it. So they are still open, still running, and still producing vehicles and still shipping them. So Mini actually had to ramp up production, and they're getting ready for the 2022 model year for the US market, which would be 2021 UK European markets. So that will be coming in the next couple of months. We're going to see some fantastic upgrades on the F56, and it's going to be great. So we're seeing an increase in demand for the vehicles, and I think it also has a little bit to do with the economy right now, and the demand for fuel, the demand for things are changing. People want less expensive I know Mini isn't always the least expensive car out there, but but they're going for less expensive or smaller vehicles because they don't need the large vehicles, and no one really needs a vehicle that big. I mean, why does one person who's the only person in their household need a Chevy Suburban? It's pointless to have that. But yeah, they're ramping up production. They're bringing out new stuff. Sonic Liberation Mini exterior design has lost its way, if you ask me. I will have to disagree with you, unfortunately. I have to disagree with you on that because I do think that the exterior design is still very much Mini. It's still very much a unique look, and you cannot argue with me about that. That you can see, or you cannot argue the fact that Mini is one of the most recognizable styles out there, one of the most recognizable looks out there. It's instantly recognizable as a Mini. Doesn't matter what model year it is, what generation it is. You go out there and you see, you'll see it coming a mile. You'll see it coming a mile away. It's coming down the road behind you. You're like, yeah, that's a Mini. You can recognize the shape. It's an identifiable shape. You look at a Hyundai and you're like, you could see 5 or 6 of them drive by in a day and you wouldn't know they were Hyundais because they look like Toyotas. They look like Hondas. They look like Kias, Nissans. They all kind of start to blend together. That being said, most auto brands are starting to get their own brand identity. I've noticed this too, that I've noticed that Jeeps have a brand identity going across. It's usually the grille. Hyundai is now having a brand identity. Kia has a very distinct brand identity. BMW needs to not make their kidney grills so large. I've seen, apparently there was a picture I saw for the upcoming revised BMW 7 Series or something. And I kid you not, the grill was massive. It was bigger than I thought it was going to be. I saw the picture. I was like, that can't be the next 7 Series. But I mean, it's basically, let me think if I can find an example here that would describe the grill. Basically, someone once said they took the kidney grills and replaced them with lungs. So there you go. Sonic Liberation might as well get a Volkswagen over a cheap new BMW. Yeah, Volkswagen over a cheap BMW would probably be the way to go. If I would think, if you're not going to get a BMW, or if you're going to get a BMW, a cheap BMW, go get a Volkswagen. Basically, if you're going to get a cheap if you're going to get a cheap BMW, don't get a cheap BMW. Go buy a Hyundai. Go buy a Genesis sedan. Actually, the Genesis G70 is probably about as competitive as the BMW 3 Series, at least from the cheap standpoint. Now, when you get to the higher end 3 Series cars, completely different ball game. Those cars are far better, but you know what I mean. Rocco, I think that the new 2 Series Grand Coupe looks nice. The X4 and the X6 are ugly. Like, what's a coupe SUV? Also, a diesel Mini would be pretty cool over here. They won't bring the diesel Mini to the U.S. because the fuel economy for the diesel would be very similar to the fuel economy for the Cooper or for the gas engine, so they decided not to do that. I agree with you on the X4 and the X6. Not too sure on the 2 Series Grand Coupe. I don't necessarily think that's a smart-looking vehicle. X4 and X6, I don't understand this whole coupe SUV thing, and I thought that I thought that BMW was it. Then I saw Mercedes, and I was like, okay, at least BMW and Mercedes are it. Then I saw Volkswagen had done the same thing to the Volkswagen Atlas, and I was like, okay, what's next? I drove by the Audi dealership the other day. Guess what they have in their showroom? I'll leave it at that. Oh, Sonic Liberation, you meant BMW, not Mini design. Yeah, okay, no worries. The BMW design, the kidney growth thing, it just gotta go. I don't understand what it is with that grill. It's just, it catches your eye. It's just the most, it's like you look at the car, it's like, oh, look, it's really, really nice. You're looking from the back to the front, very nice, very nice. And you're going to the front, like, it looked like they were designing the car, went off to a break, came back, someone spilled a little water and the colors kind of ran, and then they like, oh, it looks good that way. So they just drew it. It looks like the car has buck teeth, or as someone said, it looks like Bette Midler from Hocus Pocus. There's lots of different analogies here to compare the new grille on the 3 Series. It just looks strange. It's like you look at, well, I'm trying to think of some other weird ones I could compare it to. Oh, I have something up there that'd be funny, but I'm not going to bring that down. It's a massive grille. What is BMW thinking? and they're making them bigger. It's like, you really want that to be the last thing, that the first thing you see when you see the car drive by? You're like, you look at it, like, well, I think that's a BMW. I mean, I think they started doing the large grill. The reason they started doing the large grills is because you go over to Lexus, and the entire front is pretty much a large grill on the Lexus. I think they decided, oh, people are buying those. They'll buy BMWs if they have giant kidneys on the front. Let me just tell you, if your kidney is that large, you probably should go see a doctor. Anyway, Sonic Liberation. Even BMW's upcoming electric cars have huge grills. Yes, I saw that. I couldn't believe it, but I did see that. Porsche Cayenne Coupe already exists. I thought that the Cayenne was already kind of a coupe in style, in terms of styling. But oh dear. No, we're not talking about Slick Rick. I'm not talking about the Audi Q8. I'm talking about exactly the Q5 coupe. I saw that car. The Q8 looks decent. The Q5, I looked at that, and I saw that thing in the showroom. Like, oh god, no. I mean, I'm waiting for Volvo to do an XC90 coupe. That would just seal it. Ford, we're gonna do the Ford Explorer coupe. We're gonna do Range Rover. Well, they're gonna probably do one anyway. But it's just, I don't understand it. If you're gonna buy an SUV, buy an SUV. If you're gonna buy a sedan, buy a sedan. You don't need to have both in one vehicle. The last company that did it successfully, combined an SUV and a sedan and did it successfully, the last company that did that was Subaru with the Outback sedan. That was the only one that I would categorize as a successful SUV sedan combination. It just doesn't work any other way. So, Rocco, I saw a new 7 Series the other day, and I swear that more than half the bumper is grille. That is, you're not wrong. Half the bumper is grille. Wait, they just released a Q5 coupe. Now, help. Yep, I agree with you. I think it's a Q5. I hope it's not a Q7. But I did see it in the showroom, and I swear to God it's a Q5. It's a coupe Q5. I don't understand what's going on there, but I don't know. Slick Rick, my girl's mom thinks Lexus grills and Mazda grills are uglier and bigger than BMW. She's totally fine with them. Mazda grills aren't really that bad. The Lexus grills are horrible. I actually saw a Lexus SUV the other day, and I swear it looked like, I don't know, there's something with the Lexus, I think it's the NX SUV or the RX, I'm not sure, but you look at it from the front, and it kind of looks like it has an overbite. That's how you describe the vehicle. It looks like it has an overbite. That one looks like it has an overbite. The other one looks like it has buck teeth. Oh, I really don't know what's next. And I think the BMW sedans look good. I think the coupes need a little help. The M8 8 Series coupe is not bad. The Grand Coupe sedan version is silly. It's like they took a coupe and they stretched it out. It doesn't look right to me. We'll wait and see. Yeah, and the coupe versions cost more money, and they chop your cargo room in half. Yeah, they take off all the cargo space in the back and charge you more money for it. It's like that's kind of the ethos of, I think Porsche is good at that. They create cars like the GT3 RS, which costs much more than the model below it and has far less stuff. So they take away stuff, they take away weight, and then they charge you more money for not having that stuff. I would rather have all that stuff and not pay that price, but that's me. Sonic Liberation, I don't think Lexus' current design language will age well. It probably won't. The Infinity design language probably won't age well either, assuming Infinity stays around long enough. But yeah, that big grill thing, when I saw one at a car show, the big grill Lexus, I saw one at a car show. I think it was a RC coupe, something like that. It's one of the new ones. I saw one at the car show. I saw that giant grill, and I'm looking at it. And a friend of mine and I started to walk around the car show after that. We were basically figuring out what parts are going to break first on these vehicles, get cracked first, all this other stuff. If any of you have seen a late 1990s, early 2000s Chrysler Sebring coupes, or even later ones, They had that big waterfall grill, came down into the bumper, and every single one of them, the lower lip is like pulled down, like someone just took your jaw and ripped it down. They all look like that because they all had that. People just drove them into the curbs all the time. People do that all the time. So I'm looking at those cars, I'm like, that's not going to age well. They're going to have to replace that so frequently, it's not going to be funny. Slick Rick, I have faith Volvo won't. They are smarter, like literally Dodge, Volvo, and Mazda, then Mini, and finally Lincoln are my top brands. To me, are my top 5. Funny thing about Lincoln, my brother had a Lincoln MKT, he and his wife. I photographed 5 or 6 of those one day, and I didn't realize until after I had to grab the key to go out and actually open the hatch that there is a place in the hatch you can open it without using the key. Unfortunately, it's a little button down in the bumper up above the license plate. So it was basically one of those things that while I was photographing the car, I had to walk up and basically kick the license plate to get the hatch to open when I was doing photos for those cars. It became kind of a game with these vehicles to try to figure out where everything was to kind of open stuff up. It was just really weird. But Lincoln's kind of an odd company when it comes to designing. Shifters are one of those things. If any of you have been in a new Mercedes lately, next time you get in one, tell me where the shifter is, because I sat in one for about 10 minutes one day, couldn't figure out where the shifter was. Someone finally had to point it out. Couldn't believe it. Anyway, the new 2021 Lexus and the 2021 Lexus LC grills are just beautiful. Now the SUV Lexus grills are terrible, I agree, but search up the looks. Yeah, it's kind of hit or miss when it comes to car design, and I think it's going to be that way for a while, because everyone wants to kind of do the same thing, copy the styling, kind of want to do the same thing the other company does. There's no company that seems to really want to be innovative, I guess. They all want to kind of do the same thing that everyone else does. I think they need to try to be more unique. Each one has a distinct style. I think Mini by far is one of the few companies where it actually has a distinct style that you instantly recognize what it is. There's been times where I've looked at some cars from other brands, and if you covered the badge up, I would not know what brand that is. I would probably have to take a guess, and I would probably be wrong a few times, but it really depends on the brand. Morocco, the shifters on the column on the new Mercedes cars. Yes, I know. I saw that. It doesn't make any sense to put it up there and then make it look the same, identical to the wiper or whatever it is the other stock is on the other side. They look identical. So you're looking at the car long enough, and if you're the old person who's usually driving these cars, you're not going to possibly be able to read park, reverse, neutral on that stock. You're not going to see it. So you're going to have to basically assume that that's what it is. Now, knowing my luck, I'm going to get into one of those cars, go for the wipers, and put the car in reverse, going down a highway at 70 miles per hour. I'm hoping that's not possible. I'm sure it isn't, but still, it's kind of just a weird situation with those cars. Anywho, hey, could you please do a video about the reliability of Minis? Reliability of Minis. I am currently driving one that has 63,000 miles on it now. I bought it in March with 44,000 miles. My new job actually means that I drive about 30,000 miles a year, which means that car, by the time I pay it off, will probably have over 200,000 miles. But if you want to talk about reliability for the current ones, there is a guy I know on Facebook who currently has one that's a little over 400,000 miles and still going, and it's an F car. So that should say something about the reliability on the current model year, or current generation, I should say. Rocco, just look at the new Sienna. It's a hybrid, and the grille is so huge. Yep, I agree. Des Miller, by your logic, why have a GP3 when a GCW is cheaper? I think it has a little bit to do with the exclusivity of it. That being said, if you want to go exclusive or have exclusivity, the 1499 GT is only 150 units, whereas the GP3 is 3,000 worldwide. And 150 for the 1499 GT being 150 units, that is worldwide, but only in the United States. So I'd say that car is a little bit more exclusive. That being said, I do have a video coming up on a car that I got some video on. It is called the Petrolhead Edition. It was launched back in like 2017 in Italy, and it is one of 6. Only 6 of those cars exist. So that is even more exclusive, and it's a John Cooper Works as well. So I'll have that video coming up at some point. I also have an R58 video coming up. And for those of you looking for an affordable buy for a Countryman, I have an Oxford Countryman video coming up for you all that you're all going to probably love. I really hope you're going to like it. So that video is coming up as well. I'm basically packing everything in. The Patty Hopkirk edition that I was going to do a video on soon is delayed because the cars have not been shipped due to a part shortage. So those cars will not be here until January, which means I'll hopefully be able to do a video on that car then, assuming we have the ability to do that and we're not in another lockdown. But we'll see what happens with the rest of this year and beginning of next year. I'm assuming I'll find a way to get something out to you all. In the meantime, I do have some videos coming down the pike that have been stored away, ready to go for you all to enjoy. Rocco, Autovlog, accidentally put his car into park whilst driving when he meant to spray the windows on his C63. He talked about it in his What Happens If video. Interesting. I'm going to have to go watch that video. That sounds like it might be kind of funny. But anywho, I think we're heading into an hour and 10. What? Hold on. But you can't buy an Oxford Edition Countryman if college student, right? Nope. You can buy an Oxford Edition if you're not a college student or active duty military. They've made it available now. They limit the production. They limit how many they build every year, but you don't have to be a college student or active duty military anymore to buy an Oxford Edition. So you can go to the dealership right now. If they have an Oxford Edition, you can buy it. And my dealership that I go to has two Oxford Countrymans. One's front-wheel drive, one's all-wheel drive. $29,000 for the club or for the all-wheel drive, and $27,000 for the front-wheel drive. Both nicely optioned. Both have LED headlights now as standard, so they get the LED Union Jack taillights as well. Both have touchscreen. They don't have Apple CarPlay or navigation, but they do have touchscreen. I think it's an 8.8-inch screen as well, so that's pretty cool. And both of them have one has 7-speed DCT, the other one has an 8-speed automatic. But otherwise, great vehicles still. So yeah, you can get one now without being a student. Mini keeps are fine in the F-56 as they extend production time. I think they have worked a lot of the kinks out. Yes, I agree with you. They've worked a lot of the kinks out. They definitely have made the car a lot better. Rocco, yes, it is only a Cooper. The Oxfords are only strictly Coopers. In the U.S. market, they are only Coopers. Now, I did find out that in the Indian market, you can get Oxfords over there as Cooper S's. That being said, I think they limit those cars over to like 6 or 7 or 8 cars coming into that country, or 50, something like that. Very, very limited run, whereas we have a lot more in the U.S. But yeah, as far as Sonic was saying, the Mini does keep increasing the reliability and everything. But anywho, I need to let you all go. My battery is about to die, and I don't have my charger with me. But I hope you enjoyed this little chat. I hope you got some information that you needed. Hope you had some questions that were answered. If you have any more questions you want to ask me, feel free to leave a comment below. If you haven't already followed me on Instagram, it is @the.miniac. And I post pictures over there, little video snippets here and there sometimes, things I might be doing with my car. You never know. There is the Miniac YouTube, or there is the Miniac YouTube channel Facebook group. If you want to go join that, you can. There's a page for the Miniac on Facebook, so check those out as well. But go check out your Mini dealership if you're looking for the next latest and greatest thing from Mini. There's lots of good stuff still coming out from the dealership. Or from Mini right now, and there's more to come. There's lots of great stuff coming. But stay safe out there. I hope you all enjoyed this live stream. Leave a like below, comment, go check out my other videos. And as always, I'm going to remind you all that life is too short to drive a boring car. So go drive a Mini, right? Yeah, we're going to go drive a Mini. But it's kind of late here, so I'm not going to go drive my Mini. But if you're in one of the other countries where it's still daylight out, go drive your Mini. I will see you all in the next video. And if you enjoyed this live stream, I might do another one in the next couple of weeks or months. But I'll see you all later. Oop, hold on. There we go. See ya.